So this meetup is organized by Miro, and I'm a co-organizer of Miro events in Washington D.C. area. So we started this events back in April after COVID-19 hit the United States. So initially, idea was to have a DC-based face-to-face events, but even our first event happened just to be online event. So at that point, we realized maybe it's time to just do a virtual. We still have a location DC, so we still have people calling from DC, but now it's more of a open and global network of people who are interested in using Miro for collaboration as well as exploring some topics. So today's topic is going to be about designing for Children's Museum in Virginia State. And I have a speaker, Nata Kostenko, and she will lead us through her journey as she did the redesign of the site. And my role is going to be just helping you guys to have conversations so you can use your chat window in Zoom. And we have Anna who will monitor your questions if you have any questions on, about using the board or about the topic that Nada will present. And I'm going to be just on the background. So this is the last time I have a mic. And let me transition to Nata. Let me stop sharing. And Nara, this is your time.
Okay, hi everyone. You should be able to see my screen right now, and nice to meet you. So if you look at this map, I'm located in Estonia. So if you ever wondered where Estonia is, so it's right there where I'm pointing, and I'm now, like, you still have time like to place your point out there, but I'll just do a quick introduction of who I am and pretty much what we're gonna talk about today. So I'm Nata, or Natalie, if you feel more comfortable saying the full name. And I'm a co-founder of the company called Tilt the Scales. So right now we're mostly focused on like personal branding and storytelling, but I also have 5 years of design experience. When all this COVID situation happened, I had the strong desire to contribute to the community and, to give back and actually use my skills, not just, to volunteer and like donate to some topic, but to actually do something for a place where like the help is not coming there, so like that's how I actually found this Wonder Universe Museum that we will be talking about today. So start with if you have any questions, as it was mentioned, like you can either leave them here on the board or write in the chat, but we will also like have this like first walkthrough. So I have this board right there, and we'll go like step by step. I'll explain the whole process, and then if you'd like to know something more about the specific step, you'll just let me know, and we can discuss that. So the main thing is that during the rehearsals of this event, what we came up with is that we'll have links to all the resources. So pretty much every screen, like every part of every step, they have a link, and you can you'll still have the access to this board after the event, and you can go explore, maybe read on some theory or see like some practical tips, so you'll have more information to that. So to start with, this Wonder Universe Museum is located in Christiansburg, Virginia, and I've never been there, never been to Virginia. Like I have never heard of, such city. Like maybe some of you like knew about that, but to me it was something totally different. It's actually the first time I saw it, like was on Google Maps when I was preparing for this talk. But if you're interested in finding more, here's the link, and you can check up what that is. So how did I find it? I knew I want to contribute to a good cause, so I went to this platform. It's called Catch a Fire, and let me know if you've heard of it before. There's this link here, so if you see this sign, it means there's the link connected. So they have this tagline, like where talent meets purpose. And pretty much they have this listings for every, like almost every kind of skill that you can contribute, digitally. And that's what I saw. That was the page that they needed website, like major updates. And I have experience as like user experience designer, user researcher. So I knew that I'd like to help with this. And I knew that during the COVID, museum was hit hard and they didn't have enough help. They needed to shorten their staff and so on. So I thought, okay, let's see what they have. And pretty much this platform, like what you do is pro bono volunteering, so you don't get paid, but they are usually willing, the change that you're making is pretty big, and also it's a way for you to practice the skills. So it's not only like design, it can be all kind of things. They might need some marketing consultation or development, or even, I don't know, like making some stickers or something. And I just checked like project details that they fit still my skills, the milestones, and of course the profile of the website itself. So how the website looked before, like first thing that we did was the audit of what is actually there. And Wonder Universe is a very bright place. It's a happy place where kids come with their parents to enjoy. However, the website didn't reflect it at all. And let me know if you agree or not. But pretty much that's like the website that was there. And they had like exhibits, just like everything smashed in one place, and some form, which wasn't like very easy to navigate. So I knew that I will be of use. So what we did, like next, by saying we, I mean I communicated with the operations manager, and we started as kind of like two people group, I'd say, like, and she was the main stakeholder, and she communicated, like Megan communicated with the rest of the team. And she told me that there is actually a competitor. Well, it's like still 40 minutes drive. So, like for parents going on a day trip with their kid, it's quite a drive that they needed to make. But we still explored their competitors, which is the Science Museum of Virginia. And, we just went through their website, understood, okay, the actual competitor, that's the only one. They even didn't have like anything else for kids in the area. So we just saw, oh, nice, they have the plan of the floors. We can see, maybe we should add a map or something else. So these are just the ideas of what we found useful, or even adding like most important information on every page, there's like times and so on. It was good because I'm not a mother, so I don't have kids, and in my circles I don't have so many mothers. So for me, it was an eye-opening thing, to explore and to actually see what's out there. So what we did next, it appears that on the website they didn't have any analytics, like whatsoever, like no metrics were being recorded. It's just plain. I mean, okay, in the code, in the HTML, they said they have something, but in real life, they had a WordPress website, and there was nothing. So what we did, we used the SimilarWeb, and here is the link to the SimilarWeb, so you can explore it later, and it's a free tool. So before the COVID really impacted the numbers, we were able to capture the statistics, so we could understand once again that yes, people are using it for mobile, and the desktop version is important, but the mobile would be the first. And then like the top countries, how people find it. It appeared that mostly it's about like organic traffic, so usually people know exactly what they're looking for. And this also impacted like our decisions. So we realized that we'll need to focus on how to help the website rank better in Google. Like for example, even if we connect Google Analytics, it will already help the website. Or if we create for a for page which wasn't there, it will also help them to rank higher and to actually be searchable. The other tool that we used was the HubSpot website grader, and you might have heard of it. It's super simple, also free, and they measure, like for example, how fast the website can be loaded, like what's the performance on mobile, and so on. And then we could see where exactly we also can focus. So one of the highlights here was that you can see that the page size was well, pretty large, and that means that the page speed, like the download, is like 9.1 seconds, which is a lot. It should be like, you know, maybe 2-3 seconds in the best options. So yeah, and we realized that the images are not optimized, and since it's a kids museum, and you know, parents are supposed to see what will be there, we'll need to use a lot of images. We would need to optimize it, so like every piece of metrics was then linked to some kind of decision. um, yeah, what we did after that, we made the museum walkthrough. And since I'm located in Estonia and not in Virginia, and the museum was already closed, but Megan, the operations manager, she helped to give this feeling, you know, for me, so that I understand how it is from the inside, not only from the photos or from the reviews somewhere, but she actually spent, like, you can see it's like 51-minute call, and she was walking me through, showing different things, and I noticed I was paying attention to all the other things that she was not as attentive to, because it's something that she's used to, but maybe not always she knew what can be interesting. And one of those things is actually the Yikes box. So, you know, it's a kids museum, it's interactive museum. It means that they can do everything. They can run around, they can put everything in their mouths, you know, they can just have fun all the time. And that's what they did. And it's for kids aged 0 to 10. So these boxes are usually located on, for example, like 1.5 meter height. And if a kid took something in the mouth, like, I know, some toy or some toy vegetable, thinking that maybe it's a real thing, and then they just, you know, put it back, a kid or an employee of Wonder Universe Museum can pick it up and put into this like Yikes box. So it's still like eco, you know, you're not throwing away, and then they can disinfect it and reuse. But for Megan, the operations manager, it was such a regular thing that she hasn't even noticed that. But we were considering featuring this also on the website, because like, that's such a cool thing, right? And yeah, so that's what we had. And also, like, I started this by my own, like all the research, but then I was joined by a designer who helped to actually make the website. I'll talk about this a bit more in a later stage. And it was very useful for her also to rewatch this conversation. Part of it was also the interview with Megan, where I asked my questions. And then there was the session of the interviews. So there is this qualitative research, you know, that what you do, like, you go to people and you ask them different questions. And one of the main questions that we wanted to ask to interviewees, who are usually mothers, or, you know, those who have kids age 0 to 10, we ask them, so what's important to you when you search for a place to go with your kid? So what I suggest that we actually play a little game right now and learn a bit how to use this Miro board. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna set a timer for 8 minutes, and I will ask you to take a sticky note. So you can, you know, if you prefer some specific color, you can pick it here, or, you know, like, use just like place it right there, or you can copy this, or I believe there is Command N, if I'm not sure, I think the shortcut for that. And so what you can do, you will take the sticky note and then write on it what's important to you when you search for a place to go with your kid. And I don't want to limit you, so it can be anything, like however you think it should be phrased. And I am setting timer right now, so you'll see it's like 8 minutes. And try to write everything, like, as much as you can. And if you don't have enough space on this board, just, we can make it bigger and bigger, you decide. Yeah.
Brittany, a quick question. Kevin is asking, how many people can Miro handle as guests for collaboration opportunities like this one?
We just had an offsite, like a Miro offsite, and we're like 400 something. So safely, we've seen about 300, 350 collaborating on a board. And I say safely, like we had like a pretty good experience, but that number is increasing. Like we're increasing that number every day. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Cool. This is a technology question, but I think it's also collaboration challenge, and I think John, who's in the call, can provide some insights. Like, curious about your experiences with collaborating with Miro. What's the optimal size for the group?
It's more for me related to how much content on the page rather than the number of people. I haven't had hundreds and hundreds in there, so I think it's more a performance issue based on the number of objects on the page.
Mm-hmm. But I thought the response in terms of leading the activities, like engaging the audience.
Yeah, now you were getting into a whole bunch of stuff around workshop design and what you want to do with it. It for one person to handle a facilitation, it gets unruly if you get a little bit over 20 people, especially if you're going to be having lots of questions and lots of back and forth. So for engaging workshop size, I'd say around there would be key. Then you want to start bringing in secondary facilitators and go more with breakout rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have 4 minutes left. It's so interesting. Can see some patterns emerging here, and it's so fun how some things are obvious for one people, but many of them were not so obvious for me. So I'll share that in a while. And I like how you're, it's like organized. You can still see, how people are doing like post-its here and there. It's like all these the colors, so nice. Oh, and also interesting, some is like COVID protocols in place. So that's actually a new thing that emerged that we didn't take into consideration before because it was not a thing back then. But then, the museum was closed. So we weren't even thinking that it can be reopened during COVID or with some restrictions. So it's very interesting how the actual reality, shaped this. And like website redesign is not a constant. Just that you decided for once, but you actually are adding other things. Because one of the things we are focusing on is like how to help museums sustain itself during this COVID time. And they were coming up with like handy kits. So they would make different types of, for example, some package with do-it-yourself candle or something like that. And we were also creating pages to help them promote that. But they ended up doing much better with Facebook and just word of mouth than actually advertising at the website, because usually the website was the one we discovered it later. Like the website was the one that you check out when you were actually intending to go there, but not when you're looking for some information or what you can do. Also, one of the things I noticed is how important it was like to get out of my head and actually understand how other people see it, who are the target audience, that like I am not my target audience. So probably some of you have kids, so you understand it better and you can relate. But in terms of me, even for example, I live in Estonia, so that's a very small city and you can pretty much bike everywhere or even walk everywhere. So I can see some of the answers are about like car and parking and everything. Like, yes, of course, that's important. But unless you're in this context, like unless, you ask this question, you don't really understand that that's one of the things that can actually be crucial. And like, I still remember like my trip to the States when we couldn't find a parking in Miami. And we've been walking like from the parking lot for blocks and blocks. And it's just so ridiculous. Okay, so the timer is done. Thank you, everyone. So let's check out what we have. So pretty much one of the things, like about location and prices and these kind of things, like, how much it costs and everything. That was something that I understood even before, trying it and this fun and safety part. But it's important to see how many people actually wrote this, that how important it is. You can see from the volume and from all this analysis. And actually, if you'd like to, after this event, you can, I believe, copy this and try to make something that's called affinity diagramming. I'll tell about this in a bit. But one of the things here that you wrote and that were not obvious to me was food. So for me, again, I'm going somewhere, can survive for some time without it. But when you're with a kid, especially if your kid has allergies, like you will think about this. But on the website or anywhere, there's like no information about food. And it appears that it was like super important. Every person mentioned that. Yeah, thank you here. I'll show how it looked like when we conducted the interviews. So here is the board on the right. And if you just scroll, like zoom out a bit and scroll to the right, like you'll see this like bigger board. And I'll go like super quick through the stages. So pretty much, I can bring you all to me. There is this cool mirror feature. Yeah, so how it worked, we had like 5 interviews. I color coded everyone, and I had like notes to every person. But to be honest, it wasn't an actual interview all the time. Sometimes it was exchange of audio messages, because these all are mothers and I didn't have really time to answer, or sometimes it was in text, like some follow-up questions. And then I did what's called affinity diagramming. And there is a link for that on the top right if you want to read more. So pretty much it's arranging all these sticky notes and finding patterns. And Miro is super convenient for that, because you can see all of the sticky notes at the same time. And I'm dreaming in having Miro in VR, so you can actually like do this in real time. But I really hope that's coming sometime soon. Let's see. So for example, what I would do, child-friendly environment, right? And like they wanted some staff involvement. Okay, like first, where parents can chill. Can we do this? Can we not do this? Or like food was another thing, so the sticky notes, or like other vital needs. So someone mentioned a place where they like this kids can actually safely go like to the toilet, right? In one of the sticky notes that you wrote. And this is also something that we had a specific request to add, like where can be like when can I change, like just, or like breastfeeding, is it possible everywhere, and all the other questions, so this like vital needs and so on. So after we had all of the patterns, I shared them with the stakeholders. And pretty much I realized that first I need to suggest like some main things to talk to like stakeholders first. And we did this crazy 8 ideation. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it's kind of, you fold the paper and then you have like 1 minute per each section to come up with some ideas, what you can include based on that like affinity diagramming and sorting of all of those post-its. And with like having this and then some other ideas, again, you can read more about Crazy 8. What is it like in the top right? There is the link, and there's also the special timer, so you don't need to search like how to time, because you have 1 minute per sketching of one idea, and it stimulates you in a way. So yeah, what we did then, like we went to the stakeholder, which in my case was Megan, and we had the feature prioritization. So pretty much it's like impact effort. And on the horizontal one, you can see like the impact. Is it like something status quo, we aren't changing much, or it's like life-changing event? And on the vertical, you can see if it like breaks laws of physics, like super hard to do, or it's just like one line in code and it's so easy to implement. And this one, we took the affinity diagramming patterns, we took this Crazy 8 ideation, and we placed them together on this matrix. And the bigger ones, these blue ones that you could see, are the ones, more details that are very important to include and that were selected by stakeholders to actually like be implemented. And coming back, like we went back to this affinity diagramming and we saw how this can fit. So for example, interactivity should shine through. Like in some of your post-its, I could see the question, like, can a child interact with something? Because the whole point of having an interactive museum is that the kid can touch everything, right? It's not just the name. So we needed to emphasize that part. Or like staff plays an important role, that yes, communication, like parents is helping, but also there is staff who are taking care of it. So all of these things, then they came into the website creation and redesign. So after we did this feature prioritization, pretty much we went through the Crazy 8 and some of the mockups process. And I won't go like too much into details here, but you can read on that later. The interesting part was the usability study and the thingy. So you usually pick just one path. For example, is it possible to check the price or check the opening hours, and you would see how this person goes through these steps, or if the person is trying to look for the opening hours in some other place, or like our suggestions for COVID activities. Are people even looking for that? And if yes, where they would be looking? So like this in terms of like usability study, then again, there is this usability study guides that you can check and see what like guided us pretty much in this process. And if you don't have access, just add me on LinkedIn and I'll tell you how to find that. And then based on all the usability studies, we did another prototype and iterations and iterations. So how it looked like actually. So there's the original website with all the screenshots. We mapped it out. We used, oh, hi, we have another visitor here. So there is this Google Chrome extension called Go Full Page. And again, link in the upper right corner. And I took screenshot of every website page that we had. And you can see that's a lot of pages right here. Most of them, not all of them were necessary. And we could see like all the connections, and we can see like how these pages are interacting, like in between each other and so on. So what we did, we actually cut and paste parts of this website to simplify. So you can see how simple it became and how complicated it was in the beginning. For example, we realized like we don't need the full page, and that affinity diagramming and communication on this feature prioritization matrix with the stakeholder was the base for this. So we realized, okay, we need to show all exhibitions, but we also need to show the partners. So we would add the logos of every partner right there. Or we had no social proof whatsoever, but it's important for people, right? As you mentioned also in your sticky notes, as I could see, like social proof is important, and like visitors reviews, not everybody checks Facebook all the time. Sometimes they just, need Google Maps. Sometimes they go to the website. So this was kind of the ugly version prototype, but the best part, it was fast, and we just used Miro for that. So you can see like these are composed from different parts of like screenshots and everything. It was like quickly assembled. We didn't need anything else except for Miro to make this happen. And again, like non-designers could do that. So yeah, and then to this, this board was the one mostly used. So there is this comment feature in Miro. So the stakeholder would comment on some places. For example, we need to change the photos here. These are the old photos, or add another payment option there. So we would come up with something or suggest something. And one of the things, like creating for a 4-page, there was none. So when the link was broke, then nothing happened. So yeah, there's this part. And one of the requests was that the website that we will be creating is not in WordPress, because they were so tired of WordPress. It was so hard for them to use it. The operations director and everybody else on the team. So we decided to recreate the website on another platform that's called Tilda. And I don't know if you've heard of it before. It's kind of Squarespace, but even simpler, and it gives more options to customize. So again, here is the link. Unfortunately, it's not the referral link. I think I should have done it as a referral one, but maybe later. The main idea is it's a constructor, right? So you can compose different blocks, and that's pretty much what we did. So this is how the desktop version currently looks like, and you can see it's much cleaner, it's brighter, it's happier, I'd say, and it conveys this feeling of wow. At least that's what we had, and it's everything. It's just easier to find, to navigate, and so on. So for example, this like infant care room was one of the things that was not there before. And based on our interviews, and I saw you also like mention that in your sticky notes, we added this part, or the admission cost, like we would clearly state what is where and how. Yeah, some of the elements are actually interactive. So for example, this gear is turning, and also like this logo is turning, so it's a bit more alive. We added animation, so it's more fun, and we added the actual photos, because all the photos that were used before were from the old museum, because this museum moved to a much bigger space in a mall. Yeah, that's the part that was also very important in terms of emotional design of the website. Our stakeholder, Megan, the operations director, helped a lot in rewriting the copy, because it was important that the museum has her voice, because she's responsible for all social media. And this was also one of the things in the design process that we needed to communicate beforehand, just, to make sure that everyone is on the same page. However, she was very helpful. And for example, if we mentioned, well, here we need equal amount of text for each option, she would write and help with that. And even, some business like things that came in place, some limitations that we had. Like for my personal design taste, maybe I would make all of these logos black and white, right, so that they fit the style. But partners' requirements was that they are using color and that's their brand guidelines. So this was needed to take into consideration. Or everybody, you mentioned food, and actually there is this option to eat somewhere in the mall, but like the stakeholders didn't want to advertise this option that you can eat in the museum, so we couldn't include that part. So even though we had some discoveries, like it wasn't possible to like make use of all of them. Also, since like this is this like tilde constructor, now if you go to the birthdays page, it looks different. But this is the first version how it looked when the our stakeholders from the museum constructed it. So they were still able to grab, some elements, because in tilde you can program the fonts, you can program the the way like the sizes and everything. So they created this page, but if you go to the actual page, you'll see that now it looks a little bit different and a little bit more polished. However, they were able to do it themselves and edit everything. So yeah, that's so far the story that I wanted to share, and I'll be super happy if you have questions to me. So we have, I guess, another 10 minutes for that.
Thank you, Nata. So, people, do you have questions in terms of design processes that Nata led us through? Or maybe Mira questions? The floor is yours. Yeah, Andrew?
Hey, so first of all, thank you for organizing this. This was a lot of fun to see, and this was a clever way of sharing this. I'm enjoying it. So
Sure.
you're dealing with a a website for this place and conveying that. When the stakeholders were said like, oh, we need a new photo here to swap out because it's the old location, did they ask you for any input as to like what those photos should contain? Because images can set a tone, but in a subtle way. Did they ask you like, okay, are we going to, should we have a kid in this photo? Should we think about a particular angle? Did they ask you for any input on that?
Okay, so they actually looked for our guidance. It was me and also the website designer Karina who helped to put this into tilde exactly, and design this technically. So they had their preference, but also they asked for our input. We always asked to have kids. So let me zoom in here. We didn't want to have only photos of the locations like Motor Mile Raceway. Okay. They didn't have any photo with kids, so we didn't use it. But all the other photos were supposed to have kids or families playing together. So we were always suggesting that. The thing where we needed to compromise was the testimonials section right here. So we asked for the photos of mothers, but for some reason they were more willing to provide photos of their kids actually playing in the museum, which is in a way nice because you could see like this is not Katie living like review, but still you could feel that, oh okay, they actually have kids who went here, and you understand that it's not Katie. But this was like the fun part here. And also in terms of the photos, we tried to emphasize how important it is to have good photos of the staff and board members. So just let me zoom out and I'll show you what I mean in a sec. So, the first photos that they provided here were not as professional, like for each section, let's call it this way. So they asked us if we have suggestions or something, and we said like, yeah, it would be nice if the person was not cut out of the image with some other people, you know, like no other shoulders are included. But it was kind of, I felt as if you know, I'm a personal branding expert giving this kind of advice for LinkedIn profile picture. But at the same time, we understood that if it's a photo with a kid, that's perfectly fine. You know, yes, it's not this official, you know, serious face, plain background. It's fine if they provide these kind of images. We just made sure that we're not like cutting anyone from this image. So in terms of that, that was like this constraint in here. And of course, like waiting for all the photos took some time, and some people needed to review that. Yeah, but in terms of kids, our main requirement was that they like we had a consent from them to use, like from parents to use their photos and photos of the kids. That's of course, you know, I mean, I'm now living in Europe and GDPR is serious, but it's the issue everywhere. So yeah, that was this.
Can I ask
Hi.
a question?
Yeah, sure. Please go.
Well, first of all, thank you for what you've shared today. My interest is in terms of the learning curve that you might have experienced in bringing people through the journey that you've just talked us with. And there's two dimensions to that, really. One, how did you find the client end and the people that you were interviewing and otherwise asking to assist in terms of their ability, first of all, to interact with Miro and then start to use it as a thinking aid to extend or leverage their ability? And then the same question in terms of your usage of it as a tool to take you through being able to apply your design skills and come out with solutions.
Okay, so the first question is about the interviewees and how we find them, right? That was pretty easy. I have a network, like you can.
No,
Pretty
not
much,
how did you locate them? How did they manage to cope with the learning curve of initially being introduced to Miro and then being able to sort of navigate and post sticky
okay,
notes and all those sorts of things?
so the interviewees never ever interacted with Miro during this process because they were mostly moms, either full-time moms or work moms. And we had it two sides. One, we had the actual visitors of the museum, and they were contacted by the operations director, and she asked them the questions and wrote down the notes. And then I converted them into my notes. And second, I was having these interviews or kind of bites of interviews, right? So like pieces of audio and so on. It was like me who was digitalizing them. So I can zoom in, just show you how it actually looks like when it was organized. Like, of course, this was like a massive board, and I selected only the important parts. But for example, I would mark, you know, with color and write like participant 2, just understand maybe like to understand if this participant actually visited museum or never visited but is thinking of, or if they're located, you know, in some other place whatsoever, and you know, they know nothing about that. But also it's easier than when you do the affinity diagramming right here. So I didn't let anybody interfere with my process at this stage. I also think they would have fun using Miro because the stakeholder that Megan, operations manager, whom I mentioned, she was so excited. Like, she has never heard of Miro before, and I showed her, and she was like, "Oh my god! Like, we're gonna use it. We're gonna do this and that." And you know, like, because you can comment, you can put sticky notes, and you know, you can place things. You don't need to be a designer, and it's not intended to be pretty. You know, I didn't want to prettify or like polish this deck like for this particular talk, because this is how the design process looked like, and it served its purpose. And it was even easier to like ditch some parts because not all of this, you know, some of the things I didn't need, I just like, you know, could feel free to delete it, and I don't feel attached to it that much because it doesn't look super pretty. You know, I didn't spend time polishing. So that was there, but as far as I know, like, they are now using Miro for like some of the internal things for the planning. And yeah, like, I have experience having like conducting workshops in Miro, but you really need to understand the rules because it can get very very messy. Yeah, just in terms of like my usage, I would put this like research question on how I'd like to set the expectations right, so I would have it always here, and then just use like different color coding and the sizes to keep myself on track.
And Nata, I think we almost out of time. It's just a quick last question. Missy and Karyani asking how much time you spent through the whole process from the beginning of the design phase 0 to the final stage when you updated the site.
Okay, so that was a pretty long process. I'd say we started at the end of April and we finalized it only a couple of weeks ago and pushed it live. You know, all this. So it's pretty much end of April till end of July, I'd say. About 3 months. However, there was this restriction at first that there was COVID, so the stakeholder wasn't available all the time because they needed to make some money to keep going with the museum. It was not the first priority for them, but it was the first priority for me back then because I had time, I did my research, and I asked them questions. So that's like when I did the most of the job, like in May. And then when we turned into this implementation phase, then my work started flowing. And since this was a pro bono thing, is volunteering for the museum, then I realized, okay, I also need to make some money. So, but they became more available because they managed like to find their income streams, like new ones, and they had it streamlined. Um, but in general, when you're working with this target audience, and like Megan herself is a mom, and it takes some time. With this Catchfire platform, pretty much it's my second time volunteering for it. I also help another NGO in Africa. And I find that it's kind of hard if you're doing work for free for other people to also prioritize working with you. But also that's the thing with nonprofits and NGOs in general, so many things to manage.
Thank you, Nata. Thank you all for sticking with us. We had almost 45 people. Now we have 38. So it's pretty good retention. So I think we engage you well. So we will have recording right like in a few days posted on the Miro chapter page, and I will send the email with the link to you. And thanks again, and thank you, Nata, and we'll see you online.